Hi, this is Dr. Stephen Aldana. I'm the CEO of WellSteps, and I'm excited to share with you some information about financial fitness today. We talk about wellness and how we help people to improve their behaviors, and you're asking yourself, why would the wellness guy be doing a webinar or a lunch and learn on financial fitness? Well, because financial fitness is just like any other behavior. It requires behavior change to do anything. In fact, financial fitness is nothing more than behavior change with money. It's the same rules, it's just applied in a different setting. And some of you might be asking, well, why are you the one to do this webinar? And how are you qualified to do any of this? And the question is, well, I've actually done a few things along the way, and I've actually published a really good paper on financial strain. Paper came out several years ago. We're actually going to take that as part of a little quiz today to see how strained you really are financially. And not long ago, I spent the entire summer diving into personal finance. What should I be doing? How do I do it? How do I help other people do it? I would consider it part of a hobby. But you don't have to take my word for it. What I really want you to do is pay attention in the next 30 minutes, and I'm going to share with you the information you're going to need from the experts. And I'm not one of those because I don't spend my whole life doing this, but I do know who does do this well. And when you have financial fitness, it changes your life. It makes a big difference for you. And here's what we know about financial fitness. Yet when you're fit financially, you understand that money doesn't necessarily buy happiness. It's really just buys peace of mind. People who are at their deathbeds don't say, I wish I had more money and stuff. What they talk about is, I have a blessed life and I have people around me, friends and family. So money doesn't really give us the happiness that some people think it does. It does buy us peace of mind. And that's why it's an important part of wellness. If you have financial fitness, you're going to stay healthier because you've got access to resources to help you be healthy, sleep better, use your money to help other people. Money allows you to do the things that you want to do, not the things that you have to do. And that allows a sense of freedom to explore and get hobbies, and your personal time is a valuable commodity. And you have more of it if you're able to control your finances a little bit. And more importantly, you have less financial stress when you have financial fitness. So let's do some diving in and see just how fit financially you might really be. How fit are you? We can dig in and look at the traditional ways of measuring financial fitness. We could look at perhaps your debt to income ratio and see how much money you have in your savings accounts. And we can go back and forth and measure quantitatively how much money you have and how much you owe. And that might give us an idea about this, but I'm going to take you on a different route. Let's take a quiz. So I need you to have a piece of paper or a pencil. You're going to have to write down 17 small numbers because we're going to take this little quiz. And when we're done, you're going to be able to actually rank your financial stress, see a score where you're at. Now, I developed this actual survey several years ago, and it's been tested over and over and over again. But let me tell you how it was done. We used all the proper procedures to develop a good survey that was predictive and valid. But then we tested it on two groups of people, a group of average people from the community, and then we tested it on a group who are right close to personal bankruptcy, people who were getting intensive credit counseling, consumer finance counseling, meeting with counselors, going through their information, trying to keep the creditors at bay. And we had them take the same scores. So I have the ability with this survey now to kind of see really how physically fit you really are. Okay, now you've got a pen. You got to write these numbers down. You can type them out if you're on a computer, but you got to write them down and you got to answer these questions. Here we go. There's just a few of them. There's 17. I do not understand how interest works on my current debts. And you can score this from 1, never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Just write in the number 1 through 5. So this is the first section on education. I don't understand how interest works on my current debts. Never or always, 1 or 5, 3, however you want. Okay, you're writing down the number now. Here's the next one. I feel that I'm not financially educated. How do you feel? How often do you feel that way? Never, sometimes, often. Write down the number. The next one. I wish I better understood my financial matters. If you got it, now you should have a piece of paper with 3 numbers on it. Now we're going to do the rest of them here. Are you ready? Here's the next one. This is on relationships. There are disagreements about money in my home. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. I tend to argue with others about money. Write yourself a score. Financial problems hurt my relationships. Write down your score. The last one in this section, my relationships with others are affected by financial problems. So you've got the numbers from this page. Ready? We're moving on. This is the physical aspects of financial fitness. Are you unable to sleep well because of financial worries? 1 to 5. Do you ever get headaches from worrying over money matters? 1 through 5. Do your muscles get tense when you add up your bills? Lastly, does your financial situation cause heartburn or an upset stomach when you think about it? Okay, got those numbers written down. Here's the next one. I take on more debt to get nicer things. Sometimes, often, never, rarely, you answer the question with a number. I get new credit cards to pay off old ones. I make purchases on credit cards hoping that I'll have the money later. Okay, last page. Here we are. I find it difficult to pay my bills. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Many of my bills are past due. And the last question, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. All right, now you should have written down 17 numbers, and we're just going to add them up. So we're going to take a second. I'll sing a little song here. Do, 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 do. Okay, you get the idea. Add up all the numbers. It should be 17. Pretty easy to add up. We're going to evaluate your score. Okay, hopefully you've got your numbers ready to go. You should have a number somewhere between about 17 and about 70, because that's the high and the low you can get. And here's this score we produced to kind of give you an idea what that number means. So for all the people in the general public who took this survey, and there was thousands of them, the average score was 33 points. Now, the average American or the average person still has some financial strain in their life, and they're still probably not doing as well as they should. So it's slightly into the red. I mean, the typical American probably has too much debt and probably doesn't save enough. So you get it, but that's the average score. Now, for the ones I mentioned earlier who are actively engaged in financial counseling, the ones that are really struggling and really need some help to figure this out, the average score was 44. So these are people who have been feeling financial strain for a long time. They can see that there's almost no way out. I'm really struggling here. I've got to go get some help. And this is the average for those people who took the survey. They're actively seeking help. So you can put yourself on this scale somewhere. If you're 44 or higher, you're going to be struggling with financial fitness. Maybe you're in the middle, maybe you're average like everybody else, and some of you are probably way over here on the left in the green. And you're over there because, quite frankly, you're financially fit. You don't need outside counseling to advise you. You understand how your finances work and what's important. You got wants and needs, and you've been able to figure things out. And quite frankly, you're like this kid. You're happy. Things are good. You have at least some control over your life. That's what financial fitness is really all about. It's really about a quality of life. It's not about surrounding ourselves with lots of stuff and things and spend. It's about having what we need to have a full, productive life. That's what it's really all about. And it sometimes can get overwhelming. There's a lot of terminology here. We talk about personal finance. We talk about budgeting and we look at bills and we do this and we check. I'm not going to go into any of that today because I got about 20 minutes to cover this entire topic. So we're not going to do that. But I'm going to point you in a direction where you can get this done and done well. So what we're not going to do is dive into the nitty-gritty of personal finance in this 30-minute webinar. What I am going to do is give you some direction and, more importantly, a different way to think about this. So when you look at personal finance, it can get complicated because we've got all these things that we juggle around. We've got health insurance, life insurance, and school loans, and wants versus needs. And we've got Social Security kicking in. We've got homeowners insurance and car insurance and retirement and saving and investing and and a savings account and a checking account, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it can be pretty daunting. So what I want you to do is just step back and take a look at this from a little different perspective. The different perspective means that all of these financial terms and these financial tools and assets, all of these things can be put generally in one of three categories. Now, I think this is good to look at it this way because it gives you a different perspective on your personal finances. The first one is this business here of got you covered. This refers to reducing your risk to catastrophic events because bad stuff happens to people. And if you're prepared, the impact of those bad events is not nearly as bad. So if we look at this list and you could say, which of these personal finance things are really protecting me from unforeseen consequences or catastrophic events or just lowering my overall risk exposure to bad stuff happening? And you can identify them. A savings account, a rainy day fund goes a long way for those ups and downs of life because it's not if stuff is going to happen, it's when the dishwasher is going to break and when the car needs repaired and when you fall and break your arm or have a more chronic disease problem or when the house burns down. You get the idea here. These are the ones that got you covered. And you have to decide if you want these risks controlled in your life. Health insurance is pretty much a no-brainer these days. It's expensive and it's hard, but heaven forbid you should need something big done because it's that or bankruptcy. Because you know how it is, the cost of healthcare is just phenomenally high these days. So these help you kind of long-term kind of control some of that risk. And it gives you peace of mind knowing that we're going to be okay if, bad things happen. Bad things are going to happen. It's just a matter of being prepared. So got you covered. That's what that does. Then there's this next category, which I like to call working for the man. Working for the man is a term we use, and I'll divulge my age. I'm 55. But we have people who for a long time have worked for an organization or a company that was perhaps faceless, kind of nameless. It could be a large government entity. It could be a large corporation. Maybe the work environment is a bit oppressive, but you get the feeling that I'm working, but I'm really working for the big man at the top of this company or this whole organization. I'm working away and I'm working for this amount of money and they're making the big money and I'm working for the man. That's where that term comes from. I'm working for the man. So what are you doing in your finances and what financial aspects of your life are really designed to help somebody else, get really far ahead? The 1% is doing really well if you're the man. What are those groups that do this? Well, look, here's the list again, right? The list of items. Which one of these are considered you giving your money and you're working for the man? Can you see the list? Oh, here they are. Interest on credit cards, home loans, interest payments, car loan interest payments, startup fees, school loan interest payments, home equity line interest payments, title loans. No, those are the worst. I've seen one of those before. The interest rate is 400%. With these, you're working for the man. You work, you get your money, and you give that money to the man. You're giving it to somebody else to provide these services. Now, if you've got credit cards like I do, but I never carry a balance, credit cards are awesome. I love them. They're great. I use them, but I'm not working for the man. I'm using it to work for me because I get a boatload of points out of those, and it actually works really well. Then there's this last category. Remember, things in your life financially that got you covered, they're important. Things where you're actually helping somebody else, and you say, well, I have to have a school loan or a home loan. I get that. Get the best rates, find the best group to work with, and get that loan paid off as quickly as possible. Then there's this last one. Why not get the man working for you? In other words, you become the man. I'm the man. People are paying me interest. People are paying me money. People are giving me money for stuff. Where does that show up on this list? How does that work out? Well, that's this group right here, retirement savings, investments, and maybe even Social Security is going to come back and help you out later on. Hopefully it'll be there. But this is, now you got the man working for you. People are using my money, companies, real estate, investments, my retirement savings, and that money is growing and it's coming back to me. I become the man. So this is kind of a fun way to look at all three of these, but it makes a difference. You don't want to work for the man. You want the man working for you. That gives us what direction we want to go. We want to get rid of the center column here. Don't do these if you can help it. Don't be paying interest and working for the man. Get yourself covered from minimal risk. All of this is just behavior change. I'm not going to go into principal compounded and simple interest, and I'm not going to talk about amortization tables and stocks and bonds and rates and FDTFs, and all those things are great. This is really more about behavior. You know about behavior. Behavior change is what we do. We try to eat better. We try to exercise more often. We try to change our behaviors to improve our lives. And financial fitness is the same thing. Just take a look. Here's all these things that we've talked about. Which one of these would experts consider to be the most important one to get started with? Your investments, get a home loan, get a car loan. Where should you really start when you talk to the experts about what should they start? You might be surprised. It's right there. It's a savings account, a simple rainy day fund that you can dip into, and you will, and that you replenish before you do anything else with your money. And there's a rationale behind that, a great rationale. It provides peace of mind knowing that when stuff happens, I'm good. I got myself covered. Because personal fitness is part of this whole wellness model. It's financial, the financial piece there. We want to do physical health and emotional, intellectual, and social. We do campaigns in wellness to cover a lot of these areas. And financial is just one of those. So I can continue to talk to you, or I can point you in a direction where you're probably going to get the most information in the shortest amount of time. And I want to share with you some of the experts that I know. And I'm going to point you in this direction because I've looked at all these different groups and a lot of these different programs. I cannot recommend highly enough Learning Wisdom from Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is just a personal finance. His whole book says financial fitness on it. And he's been doing this for a long time. Yes, he makes money selling books and he has a radio show, and I get all of that. But this is a behavioral approach to getting your finances in order. It's amazing the kind of stuff, because he does this with all kinds of people in all kinds of scenarios. This book that he has is one that we highly recommend. Now, if you really want to get serious, just go to Amazon.com. This book right now, Amazon.com, used, don't buy the new one, be smart, $2.95 plus $2 to ship it. $5, that's a latte. And you're on your way. His information is really, really, really good. I've seen a lot, and his is the best. I really like it. I'm giving him an unconditional endorsement because I think what he has to say and his approach is really good. And let me give you an example of this whole approach to financial fitness. Let's assume, with the wisdom of Dave Ramsey, that you've got a whole bunch of credit cards. You got 4 or 5, and some of them have different amounts of interest that you're paying on those every month. And they vary. Some of them can be overdue and you're paying a lot, and you might have one that's a lower credit card interest rate. And the logical, mathematical thing to do would be to pay off the one with the highest interest rate first, because obviously that's the one that's costing you the most. And that would be the economic argument as to how to approach that. But Dave Ramsey takes a different approach, and I love this about his stuff. He says, don't do that. Find the one with the smallest balance. the debt that you have that's the smallest amount and pay that one off first. He says, I don't care what the interest rate is. I don't care, who's knocking down your door and who's coming after you for the money. Pay the smallest one first. And what happens psychologically is you just knock this big domino over. Boom. That debt is gone, and those people are going to leave me alone. It's a small one. Psychologically, this makes a big impact. And the first time I heard him say this, I thought, you know what? That's exactly right. It's more important to get the psychological and emotional boost to successfully putting yourself into financial fitness than maybe this super logical approach. I think it's brilliant. And once you get that first one done, you're motivated enough to get the second one done, and then the third one done. And you just go down the list until eventually your house is paid off and your car is paid off and your student loans are paid off. And that's a simple approach that most people would consider to be wrong. But in fact, it has a big dividends it pays off because of the psychology of behavior change. He also talks about, 401k plans. Some people work at companies and they have a matching plan. Well, you'd be surprised. 65% of people who have access to a company match. In other words, if I put money towards my retirement, my company will match that to a certain percentage of free money going in. It's free money. All you have to do is put in a percentage of your income to get the free money. And yet 65% of people who have the opportunity at their work don't participate. Dave Ramsey goes through this and says, look, here's how to make this happen in a really painless way. I don't have the money to put into the 401k. Great. The next time you get a raise, pretend you didn't get a raise. Take that money you got a raise and apply it over here. Not only do you get an increase in your 401k, but then you get a match. You get a double the amount of money you put in there. So he has strategies. Okay, I love his common sense approach to this. I can't say enough about it. Go get his book, Total Money Makeover. It's $2. Be smart. Go get it. All right. There's some of you who are probably listening today and say, well, Dr. Aldana, I'm not over there on the red. I'm actually over here in the green. I'm actually doing a lot better on my finances than other people. I don't have creditors breathing down my neck every day, asking me about different things. I'm in pretty good shape. Well, then there's this business of investing. Where should I put my extra money? And how do I plan for the future? And what should I do for retirement? I'm really passionate about this part. This is the part that I studied more than anything. And I want to introduce you to Mr. John Bogle. John Bogle is the founder of Vanguard Group Mutual Funds. In the last decade, it has grown faster than all other mutual fund companies combined. And there's a reason why Mr. Bogle has done so well. Vanguard is the only mutual fund company that is owned by its investors, not some corporate man, the people who invest in Vanguard are the owners of Vanguard. So their costs are extremely low. His book, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing, is the most recent one that's come out. John's been at this a very, very long time. I cannot say enough good about what John Bogle has done at Vanguard. I have been a huge Vanguard fan for the last 30 years of my life. And I became a Vanguard fan when I first had my first job. I started making a little bit of money that is enough to save a little bit. I didn't know what to do with it. All my reading of all the investment papers and the research pointed me in this direction. I will tell you, unabashedly, it is the best decision I ever made in my life, financially, is to just follow John Bogle's guidelines and work with index funds and where to put my money and how to be safe and how to prepare for the future at the lowest cost possible. So that's my plug for John Bogle. By the way, last year, they have $4.2 trillion that they manage for people. It's larger than almost all the other fund companies combined. And it gets bigger every year because this guy knows what he's doing. His approach to this is unparalleled. All right. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about what financial fitness is. We've talked about how to improve our lives through making small choices. Let me just summarize a little bit. Stop working for the man. Your money's just going out the door to some big fat cat or some unnamed oppressive group. Again, it's not going to you. You're just working for the man. Stop that. You need to start working for you. You need to be the man. Your financial fitness is just behavior change with money. You got to be motivated. You got to make the right decisions. You have to have some help along the way. You have to change your culture, just like we do with behavior change. And you need to learn financial wisdom from the wise. And I put Bogle and Ramsey in this group. You could talk to other people, and that's wise to do. Some of the people who are in the money profession don't like Bogle because under the Bogle rules and guidelines, there's not much money for the fat cats out there. The money goes back to the investors. So two great books to get you started. I can't recommend them highly enough. Then don't get overwhelmed by this. Just take baby steps. Get one of the books. Read through it. That's step one. Start working towards this, making some small steps along the way. And then lastly, the whole point of all of this is to gather peace of mind, to have a good life with good health, with those you love and care about, doing things that are important to you, and not having to be constantly worried about risk of financial bankruptcy or creditors, or not having enough for the basics in life, but having sufficient money to have a happy, healthy, high quality life. That's what it's really all about. It's just about having a good life. If you're ready for that, then you're ready to be financially fit. And with that, I bid you adieu and wish you all good luck. Thanks.